Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever and whenever you are. My name is Benjamin, and welcome to part 6 for our mobile RPG series. This series is sponsored by my Kickstarter project. There will be a card in the video and a link in the description if you want to check that out. Let's get started. So in this video, we're going to be, currently, if you look at our project, our sword action, right here, is directly linked with our battle up here. So you can see it emits a signal that's connected directly to battle, which isn't necessarily a terrible thing, but if you want to add more actions than what we currently have down here, then you'd have to connect each of them, and if you want to remove some, you'd have to unconnect them. And maybe you want to add them during the game, like let's say you want them to be able to get new actions during the game and remove actions during the game. Then you would have to manually connect and disconnect all of those signals to battle in your own code. And that would be a pain. So it's kind of coupled to our battle object. So we're going to figure out how to decouple it so that it's not connected to it anymore, and it can kind of run on its own without the battle object. So we'll create a new scene. And inside this scene, we're going to just create a new button. Oops, we don't want to control. We want a custom node. Is it just it's just a normal button. Okay, we're going to have to apply our theme because we can't use the default. There we go. And we might have to apply our font too. No, we shouldn't have to. There we go. Okay. Now we're going to give it, if you remember, we gave them a min size, which was 13 on the X, I think. No. 33 or 32 on the X and 13 on the Y. I don't remember for sure. I'm going to double check here real quick. 32 and 13. Yep, that's it. Okay. And we're going to call this action button. Like that. And we'll attach a script to it. It will inherit from button, action button. That looks good. Create script. In here, we're going to have, well, we're not actually going to have a lot in here. All we're going to do is save this scene. So save action button. And then we'll connect its pressed signal to itself and make a function. There we go. So you should get on action button pressed. But we're just going to actually that's not what we want. I want it to be called on pressed. So come into the action button, disconnect that, try it again. Just on pressed, and make the function. Okay, connect to action button. There we go. The reason I want it to be called on pressed is I want it to be easy to remember, because we're going to be creating inherited events that inherit from this action button. So they'll already have this signal connected. And then we can extend this signal and make it do, or this function, and make it to do different things depending on which action button we're pressing. So we'll save this. And our action button scene is now done. We don't have to do anything else with it. But we need to now extend that scene. So come up to scene and then do new inherited scene. And then select action button scene right here, open. And you can see it's created a new scene that's unsaved. It doesn't have a name, called that extends action button and has the same script that we had before. So let's give this a new name. We'll call it sword action button. And then we'll save this scene. It'll save as sword action button. You can see it's a different scene from the one that we had before, but it has the signal. So it's inherited that signal. Now we can right click on this and go extend script. And this will extend or inherit from action button. And it will have a path. Well, it creates a new script called sword action button. So we can create that. And we've got our new script. Now we want the sword to do something different when we press it than what the action button was set to do, because it wasn't set to do anything, right? So we'll do func on pressed, because this is the same function that we already have a signal connected to, but we're going to extend it. We're going to add more to it than what it already does, which technically it didn't do anything. So we're going to need to get access to the enemy. So to do this, we'll get access to the main node, var main equals get tree dot current scene. So that gets the root node of the scene, which will be battle if we're in the battle scene. And then we can say var enemy equals main dot find node enemy. Okay. And we're going to probably be changing how this is done later, but for now, this is going to be fine. So we can check to see if the enemy is null. If enemy does not equal null, then we want to damage the enemy. Enemy dot take damage. Didn't we have that function? I think we did. We'll do 4 or something here. Player.mp plus equals 2. Let's see, we have to get access to the player as well. So we'll say var player stats equals main.find node player stats. And if not enemy equals null and player does not equal null, no player stats. Enemy take damage, player stats dot mp plus equals 2. We're going to increase the player's mana points when they attack. And then player dot ap minus equals 1. Or player stats dot ap. Okay, and that's all we need to do. Let's go back into battle. And we want to disconnect the signal for this sword button. So we can come over here in signals when the sword button's clicked and disconnect. There we go. Then we can delete all these buttons here. I'm going to hold shift and select them all and delete them all. Don't need them. We also don't need this function inside of our battle.gd anymore on sword button pressed. We don't need that anymore. It's not being used. So we'll save. And then inside of our battle action buttons, we can actually just come down here into our file system and type .tscn like that. And that will filter all of our scenes. So then we can see all of the scenes that we have. And we can just grab sword action button and drag it up and drop it right here. And you can see it stuck it in there. But it doesn't seem to have our min. Did I set the width and height on the action button or the min width and height? That's the question. I set the size. We need to set the min size. So the min size should be 32 by 13. And we're setting this on the action button, which should, since the sword action button inherits from it, it should fix our problem here. We might have to delete it and drag it back in again. Let's see. There we go. Yep. And the other thing we forgot to do is put the text on the sword action button. So we'll want to say sword. Come back into here, and there we go. Now if we run the game, hopefully this works. Yep. So you can see our sword action is currently working. So how do you add a new action, right? That's part of what I wanted to teach in this, so that you guys can extend this game and make your own actions. So it's pretty easy. We just did it actually with the sword action, but we're going to do it again with a heal button, or a heal action button. So come up to scene, new inherited scene. We'll inherit from action button right here. Open. We'll create this, we'll call this heal action button. We will save this as heal action button.tscn. We will change the text here to say heal. We'll right click and do extend script. And we want to extend action button, and we'll call it heal action button. Then we need to add our function again, on pressed, so that we can extend the on pressed function. And we can heal the player here. So let's get access to the player. Var main equals get tree dot main dot current scene. Var player equals main dot find node player. If player does not equal null, this is player stats. I'm gonna do that probably forever, I guess. Player stats. If player stats dot MP is greater than or equal to 8, player stats dot HP plus equals 5, player stats dot MP minus equals 8, and player stats dot AP minus equals 1. So our heal spell costs 8 mana, heals us 5 health, and takes 1 action point. So we can save the game, come back to battle. We can drag our heal action button and drop it under battle actions. What? Somehow I accidentally grabbed enemy. That's funny. Okay. Heal action button, battle actions. There we go. And it adds that button to our scene now. Can run the game and deal damage to the enemy. When it hits us, we can use an action point to heal ourselves and use some of our mana. And if we use our sword again, it's going to start recharging our mana back up, so that we can then heal again once we get to 8 mana. And we're able to kill the enemy that time without actually losing any health, because we were careful about when we switched between healing and the sword action. And of course, this isn't a very deep strategy, right? This is a pretty easy strategy, but you would, in theory, add more. As you continued working on the game, you would make the enemies do different things and add different actions that you could choose from to make it not quite so obvious what the best strategy is, and encourage the player to try different things while they're playing the game. Let's test one thing though. I want to make sure that I want to see what happens if we kill the enemy. See, that was not as good. Oh, it just gets rid of it just hides our buttons down here, so we can't try and press them again, which is probably what we want. That's probably ideal. So let's do one more thing here now. What I want to do is I want to create a slash effect that goes over the enemy each time we attack. And so we're going to create a new scene. We can actually get rid of these. We don't need them right now. So we'll create a new scene. It'll be a 2D scene. Call it slash. It's going to have a sprite, which is going to be, if we do .png here, we can get all our images. It'll be the slash effect. Let's drag the slash effect PNG up into texture. And you can see we've got a problem here. Well, first of all, let's turn off centered. And then we've got a problem here because it's doing that. It's not an animation, right? It's the entire image all in one here. So sprite has properties over here for animation. So we've got V frames, 8 frames, and our H frames in our current frame. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frames going horizontally. So we want to set our H frames to 5. And then if we change our current frame, you can see it cycles through the animation. So we can use an animation player to do that. So we'll come into here, add a new node, animation player, and we'll use this to cycle through the slash effect. And we have 5 frames. Let's create a new animation. We'll call it slash. and we'll want to do a length of 0.6, I think. No. Well, let's try 0.6. I'm going to zoom in just a bit here so we can better see this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, we probably want 0.5. Whoops. 0.5. There we go. Now we want to start on our first frame, so click on sprite, make sure you're on frame 0, and then you can just key that frame by pressing key right here. And we don't want to use a Bezier curve, so don't check that, just press create. And then you can move over 1, set your frame to 1, and key it. And now it will automatically increase your frame and move over 1. It doesn't do it the first time because of the Bezier curves message. That kind of messes it up, but now you should just be able to click, 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 and get all of the frames of the animation like that. Perfect. Now we want our slash effect first of all, we want it to autoplay this effect. So if we come into, I'm actually not so sure that we want the sprite's offset to be not centered. We might actually want it to be centered. For now, let's leave it off, but yeah. I'm not sure about that. We'll see. So now one of the things we want to do is we want this animation to autoplay. So if you come into playback, let's see, where is it? Current animation. There we go. Yeah, we'll just create a script. I'm pretty sure there's a way to get an animation to play right when it runs in the room, but I can't find that here. I don't remember exactly how to do it. So we'll just do it with a script. Well, we also need a script anyways. I just remembered. So create a new script attached to the slash. And then we're going to have an animation player finished signal. So click on this to get rid of our animation stuff down there. Click on your animation player. Click on node so you can get signals. And let's do animation finished. Connect that to slash. We do want to make a function. And here we can just Q free. Q free. We can hide we can destroy the slash effect. And we'll save that, yes. And I know there's a way to make it automatically play the new animation. Oh, I remember where it is now. It's down here. This little button right here is autoplay on load. I do kind of wish it was over here. It feels weird for it to be right here. I wish there was like an autoplay on load option right here and you could select an animation. But yeah, it's right here. You can click on this and then it will autoplay the slash animation right when this scene is created. So we can run this specific scene, not our game, by pressing this up here. And it should play the animation and then destroy the node. And you can see it did that just like we wanted it to. It was kind of slow. Let's up the speed so we can make sure your animation player node is selected. We can change its speed to 2. And this will make it play a little bit faster. And it's really fast now. It's hard to see, but that's about what we want. So we do want our sprite to be centered. So let's click centered now, and we can save this scene and close out of it. Now what we need to do is come into our sword action button script, and we need to get access to the slash effect. So we can do const slash equals preload slash.tscn. So this allows us to load the slash scene, and I'm going to teach you how to instance that scene while the game is running. So if you're coming from GameMaker, this is kind of the equivalent of instance create. And you're going to see it's a little bit more involved than it was in GameMaker. That's because of the node system and how nodes work. So it's going to be a little bit more involved, but we'll create a convenient function for it here. So function create slash, and then we'll give it a position. We'll pass in a position. We'll say var slash equals slash dot instance. So that creates a new instance of this slash scene. But now we have to tell it where it's going to go and who it's going to be a child of. So in GameMaker, you would just create it and tell it where it's going to go, right? But because of the node system in Godot, you have to also tell it who it's going to be a child of. And technically in GameMaker Studio 2, you now have to tell it what layer it's going to be on, so it's kind of similar. So we'll say var main equals get tree dot current scene, because we want it to be a child of the main scene. That way if the enemy gets destroyed, it doesn't destroy the slash effect. Because you could make it a child of the enemy, but then if the enemy got destroyed, it would be destroyed with it. So we'll say main dot add child slash. So we're adding the slash, the lowercase slash. This is our instance of this scene to the main scene. And then we want to set its position, slash dot position. Well, slash dot global position. Technically we can just use position, but we're going to use global position equals position. So then we set its position. So now all we have to do is create that slash effect up here when the enemy takes damage. Create slash, and we're gonna pass enemy dot global position for the position that we want to create the slash effect at. We can save the game and run it. And now we're creating a nice slash effect on the enemy. We want to heal here. And then we want to slash, heal, slash. There we go. Perfect. It's looking awesome. that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something and found it interesting. If you did, give it a thumbs up and share it, and I will see you all later.